It wasn't the sirens or the rushing doctors that made the hospital stop. It was the dog. A large German shepherd burst through the emergency room doors, carrying an unconscious little girl draped across his back. No leash, no owner, just purpose in every step. For a moment, time froze. Phones stopped ringing. Conversations died mid-sentence. Staff stood paralyzed as the dog calmly walked toward the front desk, eyes locked with silent urgency. He didn't bark. He didn't growl. He simply stood there, begging without words, delivering a child who couldn't cry for help, but who had someone brave enough to do it for her. The moment the German shepherd stepped through the hospital's automatic doors, time seemed to stop. He wasn't panicked, he was purposeful. Draped across his back was a little girl, limp and pale, her small hands swaying with every step. Gasps rippled through the lobby. Phones slipped from hands. A nurse stood frozen mid-stride. The dog's eyes scanned the stunned crowd, not wild, not afraid, but desperate, begging someone to understand. When Nurse Karen approached, he let out a low warning growl, not to attack, but to protect. She knelt slowly, whispering, "It's okay, I'm here to help." Only then did he allow her to lift the girl. That was the moment everyone knew this dog wasn't a stray. He was her guardian. As the trauma team rushed into action, Scout refused to leave, pressing himself against the ICU doors. He had carried her through danger, and now he'd stay to make sure she came back. Inside the trauma room, machines beeped frantically as the girl was laid gently on a gurney, her breathing shallow, pulse flickering like a dying flame. Doctors swarmed around her, shouting instructions, inserting IVs, applying oxygen, but no one could answer the bigger mystery. Who was she, and how had she gotten here? Outside, the German shepherd, now dubbed Scout by the nurses, paced anxiously, his nails clicking on the tile, ears flicking with every unfamiliar sound. He whined each time someone entered or exited, trying to squeeze his way in. Finally, one nurse moved by. His desperation gave a silent nod. The doors parted, and Scout slipped inside, walking straight to the girl's bedside. He didn't bark, didn't move. He simply sat beside her, eyes locked on her pale face, as if willing her to breathe. No one knew their story yet, but in that moment everyone understood. He belonged to her, and she to him. As Scout sat silently by the girl's side, hospital security began pulling footage to solve the haunting mystery. The grainy recordings revealed something astonishing. Scout had emerged from the dense tree line at the edge of the hospital grounds. He paused only briefly at the entrance before the doors opened automatically, and he stepped through, carrying the child on his back. Not lost, not wandering, deliberate, purposeful. There was no hesitation in his stride, no panic in his eyes, only focus. The staff who had seen it live were stunned, but watching the footage left them speechless. One guard murmured, he knew exactly where to go. Local authorities were notified immediately. A search team was assembled within the hour, with Scout leading the charge back into the woods. Despite the fatigue and the darkness settling in, he moved with urgency, glancing over his shoulder to be sure they followed. Finally, deep within the forest, under a makeshift tarp shelter, they found a hidden campsite, torn clothing, a cracked phone, and chillingly, a single small shoe that matched the one on a girl's foot. The rescuers fell into silence. Whatever had happened out there was darker than anyone had feared. And Scout, he had been her only hope. Back at the hospital, hours passed in tense silence. The little girl remained unconscious in the ICU, her body still, her breathing faint. And yet Scout never moved. He curled beside her bed like a silent guardian, eyes locked on her pale face. Nurses brought him water, even laid out a blanket, but he never touched either. His loyalty was unmoving, as if his presence alone might anchor her to life. Then, just before dawn, a fragile sound broke the stillness, a soft gasp. Her chest lifted, eyelids fluttered. The machines beeped steady. One nurse leaned in, holding her breath. And then the miracle happened. The girl's eyes opened, unfocused at first, then slowly shifted to Scout. Her lips quivered, and in a hoarse whisper, she breathed out, "Scout." The moment shattered the tension like glass. Scout's ears perked. He stood, leaned forward, and let out a quiet, relieved huff, like an exhale of pure faith. The girl's Hannah's doctors confirmed the girl's survival. Investigators worked swiftly to piece together her story. She whispered that the man who took her said he was her uncle, but something about him never felt right. At first, he was calm. Then came the shouting, the threats, the fists. But through every dark moment, Scout never left her side. Even when I passed out, she said softly. Fingers curled in his fur, he stayed. Her bruises, fractured ribs, and signs of exposure told the rest. Doctors later revealed that if she had arrived just 30 minutes later, she wouldn't have made it. But Scout hadn't waited. Guided by instinct and something deeper, he'd crossed miles of forest to find help carrying her limp body the entire way. Not just any hospital, the right one. He hadn't just found a building, he had chosen to save her. And that choice, made in the silence and sacrifice, gave her a second chance at life. The man who stole her childhood didn't get far. Thanks to the girl's brave recollection and Scout's unwavering trail, authorities tracked the suspect to a nearby bus terminal. He was disheveled, nervous, and clutching a backpack filled with the girl's belongings, proof he never thought anyone would come looking. But someone did. Not a hero in uniform, but a dog with nothing but loyalty and memory. Under questioning, the man's story unraveled quickly. Every detail the girl had whispered matched the evidence. As the town exhaled in collective relief, the media erupted. K9 hero walks into ER with a miracle, read one headline. But for Scout, none of it mattered. He didn't care about reporters or flashing cameras. All he wanted was to be near her safe home, together again. And in the end, it wasn't just a crime solved, it was a bond proven stronger than fear, violence, or even time itself. With the man now behind bars and the investigation, complete attention turned to the girl's future. She had no immediate family to claim her, but she made one thing very clear: she wouldn't go anywhere without Scout. At first, Child Services hesitated. There were rules, paperwork, and protocols. But after witnessing what Scout had done, how he guarded her bedside, how she whispered to him in her sleep, how he never left her side, they knew this was no ordinary case. In the end, compassion won. Scout was granted special guardianship, and the two were placed in foster care together. Scout adjusted quickly, always alert, always beside her. He followed her to meals, curled up near her bed, and seemed to sense when she needed to. Honor Scout's remarkable bravery, the hospital organized a quiet ceremony just days later. The entire staff gathered: doctors, nurses, security guards, many of whom had witnessed the unforgettable moment he carried the girl through the hospital doors. Scout was draped in a red ribbon, while the girl, now smiling and stronger, hugged him tightly. cameras flashed. But Scout didn't care for the attention. His eyes never left hers. The story had already gone viral. News anchors called him a miracle dog. Newspapers printed headlines about courage and loyalty. Soon after, the National Canine Bravery Award arrived by mail, naming Scout an honorary rescue hero despite having no formal training. What mattered most, though, wasn't the medals or media praise. It was the bond, pure and unbreakable, between a girl once lost and the dog who never gave up on her. Together, they had rewritten what love and loyalty truly meant. In the weeks that followed, Scout and the girl became inseparable. Whether it was breakfast in the foster home or quiet walks in the backyard, Scout never strayed more than a few feet from her side. He wasn't just her protector, he was her anchor, her silent reminder that she wasn't alone anymore. Each night he curled at the foot of her bed, rising only when she stirred from a nightmare to nuzzle her gently back to sleep. The world had called him a hero, but to her he was simply family, the one who found her when no one else could. One powerful message from this story is the timeless truth that love knows no boundaries, not age, not distance, not even species. Scout, a dog with no special training, showed us that loyalty and instinct, when rooted in love, can overcome fear and save a life. For older adults, it's a reminder that the bonds we form, even in silence, can carry deep meaning. It teaches us to trust our instincts, believe in second chances, and recognize that sometimes the purest acts of courage come not from grand gestures, but from staying beside someone when they need you most.